All right, I'm here with my buddy Archie, and this is Archie's roadmap to success. All right, you're gonna lay down and you're gonna try to eat the treats out of my pouch. He's pooped. This has been like about 4 hours. Yeah, you're gonna demonstrate you're not pooped? He is pooped. All right, this is a summary of what we went over in the session. So we started off by going over the marker words. The marker word that he's using is thanks. And so we need to do a loading exercise. By the time you see this video, hopefully you've already done that. You should be walking around your house. Thanks, give him a treat. Go take a couple steps. Thanks, give him a treat. And you want to do this in every room in your house. I'm going to restrain you a little bit, which is kind of against my code, but I don't want you, you're going to go knock that down, I can tell. How about we crash? Or that's not your word. What is his word? Lay down?
Down.
Down. Thanks. All right, so I would like everybody in the family to do it twice. So grab about 20 treats or pieces of kibble, say thanks, and put the treat in his mouth. He does not have to do anything. Don't wait. You want to get the treat in his mouth as fast as possible. Thanks, boom. And then take a couple steps and repeat that. You know you're done when you say thanks and the dog looks up at you right away. Now, I also would like the guardians to do this with a clicker. Now, they took a class before and they weren't really a big fan of the clicker. Now, the clicker is something I honestly stayed away from for several years because I'm like, I don't need that. That's dumb. Dogs learn about 20% better, faster with a clicker. So if I'm actively training something, I would have it in my hand when I'm practicing. But the rest of the time I use thanks, a verbal cue, verbal marker, excuse me. All right, so do that with each, maybe each person walks around the house twice with the clicker. Click, treat, click, treat, click, treat. Now, the clicker is the same thing as saying thanks. They're just different. The clicker is a little bit better. Sit. We also went over hand targeting. Thanks. Just so the guardians could practice using their the timing for the marker. And then how I can introduce how you introduce a cue. Remember, you don't want to say the cue unless you're 90% certain. When I say sit, the dog does the action. So if I repeat that, sit, 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 the more I say it, the less I mean it. And after a while, he's just not going to listen to it. Hey, buddy. I'm good. Find it. All right, thanks. All right, let me see. We also went over, come here, buddy. And the nice thing about hand targeting, I can lure a dog into a sit or a down. And this is really just a video for you guys, so if you can hear that, it's not a big deal. Thanks. And that's what the marker word is saying thank you for sitting, thank you for laying down, thank you. It should come the instant the dog does the thing that you want, unless the thing you want has duration like stay, then we say thanks at the end of it. Okay, so we also went over, I'm going to restrain you a little. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over celebrating and manners. So celebrating is waiting for him to do something that we like without us asking him to do it. So I taught my dog Quest to grumble this way. When I come home, he was very excited, he was jumping up, and I just disengaged. I ignored him. So when guests come over, they should just, if he jumps up, they should just cross their arms across their chest, and just hold it, make sure he doesn't knock it down. Come here, buddy. And then, what do you call it? We don't want to reward, because remember, all attention is rewarding and validating. So if people come in and he's jumping up there pushing and we're saying no, then he's going to do those things. So with Quest, what I did was I come home and I just ignore him, like he's not even there. And he's barking and jumping up and doing everything he can to get my attention. I'm just ignoring it because I don't want to reward that behavior. And then finally he says, "Arr," which I thought was pretty funny. So I marked it. And now when I come home, he's like, "Arr." Yeah, you like that sound? And so I've taught him to sing. So you can celebrate anything your dog does on its own. And this is the easiest way to train a dog if you have a marker word and you're consistent with it. So I recommend the guardians use the watchword of celebrate. So if he comes back to me, and I would just say, yeah, thanks, and pet him, preferably under the chin. We'll talk about why in a sec. And if I miss it and I'm watching TV or I'm shooting a video, and like right now somebody says celebrate, thanks. It just reminds me that I should just say thanks and pet the dog. And after a while, you won't even notice it. The dog will walk up, you say thanks and continue petting and have your conversation. It will not interrupt you at all once you get in the habit of it. To help you get in the habit of it, tell each other celebrate if you see the dog did something, like right there, celebrate.
Thanks.
Perfect. He came to her. She said thanks. All right, we also went over the positive eruptor, which is an example right there. So all attention for dogs is rewarding. So if he jumps up and I say don't jump up, that's like giving him a treat. Even if I'm yelling really mad and he looks like he's sad or scared, that's just damaging your relationship with your dog. It's not going to stop them from doing it. So what I want to do instead is if he's doing something I don't want, I go, when he looks at me, I go, touch. Well, that's not what I want. There we go. Thanks. Remember, half of how dogs learn is not doing the thing and not being rewarded. So I asked him to do something. He didn't do it. I waited. And when he did it, then I marked and rewarded. I celebrate all the time except for I'm teaching something specific. I'm teaching something specific. That's the only thing you do. If I ask you for a down and you sit, I'm not going to celebrate it during that capacity. So a pause eruptor is like right there. He's sniffing me. I make the kissing sound to get him to look at me. And then, let me see. Touch. Oh no, you knocked down the really super duper nice. Aren't these really nice? I was like commenting, I came in and like, how nice are these? And especially this Mikey one. This is the nicest one I think in the house. All right, so basically what we want to do instead, and Mikey, we're just going to cover you up, buddy. I apologize. There we go. Christmas in Orange County, what can you say? All right, so basically the pause eruptor is when your dog is doing something you don't want, instead of giving them attention for what you don't want, touch. He was about to touch the camera. Thanks. I know I gotta lean. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm making a sound to get him to look at me. So I'm not giving him attention for getting the camera. When he looks at me, I say touch, and he runs over, shoves his nose in my hand, and I'm rewarding this as opposed to giving him attention for what we don't want. All right, now, so celebrating is rewarding him when he chooses to do something. Thanks, just like that. I didn't ask him to do it. I didn't show him my treat, but when he did it, I rewarded him. Now, that's half of it. The other half of the coin is what I call the manners lesson. And this is where the do-over concept essentially comes in. If he nudges you, he's saying, hey man, give me some pets. And I'm going to say sit or down. One time, he has 2 seconds to sit or lie down. If he does, I say thanks and I pet him. If he doesn't, I go back to reading the paper, decorating the tree, writing a song, whatever it was, thanks, that I was doing before. So after a while, the dog recognizes, I probably shouldn't have disturbed him there, but the dog recognizes that when I ask for a pet by doing this or barking, it causes the person, they ask me to sit once. If I don't do it, they just ignore me. But every time I sit the rest of the time, they come up and pet me. And they say the mark words. I know that's what they want. And so after a while, the dog will start sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. And when he does, you better reward that. Otherwise, you're going to go back to the pawing and the jumping and all the other behavior. Also, if your dog jumps up, don't teach him to shake or don't practice shake. They're kind of linked. All right, so so manners is the word I use for that. So I'd like the family to use celebrate and manners as terms. So if somebody comes up and sees that Archie's on top of me and I'm petting him, and they say manners to me, they're saying, I think you forgot to ask him to sit. And he's now jumped up on you and you're rewarding him. Anything your dog is doing right before you pet them was what you are specifically rewarding them for. And so after a while, he's just like, I will jump up on people to get attention. I will dig, I will bark. So this is a way to undo this. We're teaching manners. If he says it inappropriately, carefully doesn't roll into that thing. But when he does it positively on his own without our influence, we do mark and reward that as well. So there's kind of 2 sides of the same coin. But after a while, now the dog will start sitting to ask for attention. He sees there's somebody right outside the door. Yeah. Now you have a frosted window right there, and he can see the shape through there. So if that's something you don't want, maybe you like that. But if you don't want that, you can cover the bottom part of the window with white paper so he can't see that. Because if he sees that and he barks and he sees the shape goes away, my barking saved the day. So now something else you can do as a dog, if a dog is barky, is teach them to snag, teach them to grab an object. So you can celebrate that. Every time he picks something up, say yes and pet him. Don't give him a treat because he would drop it. And after a while, then he'd come up and you know he's going to go get the purple octopus. He's running towards you. You say, snag, right before he comes and gets it. Remember, there's 4 components to a cue. The cue, sit, the action, the dog sitting, the marker, thanks, and then the payment, the treat or the pet. And when we're teaching that, we do the first step last. We just lure a dog into a sit and say thanks, lure him another sit, thanks. When it becomes easy to lure, then we'd say sit, lure, thanks, treat. So that's how we introduce a cue. The more you say it, the less you mean it. So don't repeat a cue over and over again, because that's just going to have the dog practice ignoring you. And also remember, the dog's nose controls 60% of their brain. If they're sniffing, it's almost impossible for them to listen to you. So don't try to call your dog and give them cues while they're sniffing. Wait for the nose to get up in the air. One of the things I do recommend is every time you start walking anywhere your dog's going to follow you and your dog's going to walk with you, say, let's go, and then walk to the bathroom. Let's go and leave the car. Let's go and go to the yard. Let's go and go in the house or whatever it is. So when he hears let's go, he's anticipating we're on to the next adventure, and a lot of times that can interrupt them from sniffing or doing other things. However, sniffing is a very natural behavior for dogs. It's relaxing for them. It burns energy. And so I generally let dogs sniff as long as it's safe for them to do so. Especially on walks and things like that if we're trying to drain the dog's energy. But they also communicate to each other. Sniffing the ground can be my way of telling the other dog, you should calm down. And so a lot of us, we're so controlling of our dogs, we don't realize that we're actually micromanaging them and preventing them from communicating fully, like having a tense leash prevents them from moving the way that they want to move. So we have to be kind of mindful of our dogs. So that's why I went over cutoff signals and dog body language. So I have a video on that one, so I'm just giving you a quick synopsis on that one. So that's going to be see his tail. That's okay. There we go. That's all right. This is just for you guys. And so basically, there we go. So cutoff signals, we'll just go and demonstrate with you. Sit. So dogs, that's a cutoff signal. He was licking his lips and he backed his head away and kind of squinted his eye or kind of twitched his eyes a little bit. So you want to pet a dog under the chin, on the chest, or on the either shoulder. You want to avoid reaching on top of.
Okay, sit. Go.
Jennifer Aniston just came in to ask me a lot, so we had to stop filming so I could say yes because I haven't been on a date in a long time. So we're merging these together. All right, so now Ben was just practicing shake, which actually promotes jumping, and Ben was trying to keep the dog distracted, which is fine. But just remember, shaking kind of promotes pawing at you for attention or jumping up. Okay, so let me see, where was I at? I was talking about dog consent. So remember, if somebody wants to meet him, just say, yeah, we just asked, can I meet your dog? Yeah, we just ask people to hold their hand out in front of his nose to see if he wants to meet you like this. If he does, say he likes it on his chin, on his chest, and then they pet him where he wants. Avoid petting on top of the head, or at least starting on top of the head. I also went over dog body language. I don't want to go through the whole thing because it's going to take a long time. Do you guys feel pretty good about that?
Yeah.
Just remember to look at those components when your dog is neutral. Nobody's around. What are his ears doing? How is he wagging his tail? How is he holding his body? How is he breathing? And all the rest of that stuff. What do his eyes look like? Then when people are about to come home and you know he's going to be happy, look for the differences in those. And then when you see that something else happens, you're on a walk and he's a little scared or startled, look at those same components. Oh, when he's scared, he does this with his tail. His ears do this, and so on and so forth. So the more that we can read our dog, the better equipped we are to get them out of situations before they need to. And thanks. All right, so we also talked about the important exercise and mental stimulation. So dogs burn almost twice as much energy on a walk by sniffing. So I let dogs sniff on a walk as long as it's safe to do so. I lead dogs to what they are going to want to sniff. I'm taking the same route, so they don't have to pull. A little loose leash walking tip is just have a treat in your hand at all times. Every time your dog looks at you, thanks, and hold the treat down, he has to come back to you to get the treat. Stop walking if you're walking up to him, and then pull out another treat. If he looks at me, I say thanks and reach for it, he's going to be back off the next adventure. So these are like $100 bills to dogs. So this is the mini treat pouch from PetSafe. They have a bigger one if you want to get it. Have it loaded up with treats. And that way you're just on a walk and you might give them I know a lot of trainers that feed all their dogs their kibble through training and different exercises. Now dogs should not exercise with a full stomach. Their stomach's distended and it can be dangerous. But a walk is okay. All right, so what we want to do, come here, buddy. Yeah, he's like, I'm just learning. If I go over to the camera, I get attention. This time I'm not going to mark and reward because it seems to get him up. So we'll see if he just kind of settles down. But normally you should mark and follow it up with a pet or a treat. Okay, so for exercise, playing fetch is a great way to exercise. Remember to make your dog, eventually when your dog knows how to do it, tell him to sit. Sit. Yeah, you grumble a little bit. And once he sits, then I say fetch as I throw it, wait for the dog to get it. When he brings it back to me, I hold the treat out. When he drops it, I say thanks and give him the treat and repeat that. So remember, there might be a certain number of fetches that you can do before a walk to set him up for a better walk. Number of fetches before you practice the video above where we're going over not having him jump up to people at the door. Exercising before people come through the door, or if you're gonna, all these things. So the idea is to really set your dog up for success using exercise. Now we can also play tug of war. If he touches this with his teeth, we stop immediately, and then we play tug of war. And when his energy gets high, some people get the dog all jacked up. They say, "Release, let's go," and he sits down, and we have to wait for the energy to come down. I like to think of dogs as having 10 levels of energy. 0 is asleep. 10 is one of my employees just call it crackhead crazy. So whenever they get past level 5, we should stop whatever the activity is doing, even if they're having a good time, because I saw that coming too. Because when they're overly tired, that's when they make accidents. Just like us, when we're working out, our form suffers when we're overly tired. So it's better to have better form and less reps than more reps with poor form. Let me see. We can also, you can dog ski if you know how to ride a skateboard. Have him. Now there's a special harness for that. They call it sojourning. I call it dog skiing because it's easier to say. But there's a special type of harness that you wear for that. So if you want to do that sort of thing, let me know, and I'll tell you how to do that. So that's physical exercise. You can also get into the doggy backpack with the saddlebags and put weight in it. And then there's another type of exercise, or the other thing that I talked about was mental stimulation, which is like playing cookie in the corner, what we did over here. Scent work, which I'd like you guys to Google or look on YouTube, find about 4 different scent games. Those are things you can practice in the house to drain energy for him. And we also talked about things that are hybrids, like a sniff walk. And things like that. Now, I recommend the Guardians get a snuffle mat. The one I like is the Runda. I think it's R-H-U-N-D-A, and it's gray. It has the kind of band around it. Flip it over so all the tassels are going down, then gently put it back up, and then waterfall his kibble. It'll fall in between the crevices, and then he's got to use his nose to find it. Now, if you can get him to sit and wait, put the thing down, and then say lasagna, and then tap, or whatever your funding word is. Maybe meatball means I get to eat food. And so that's a nice way for him to practice a little impulse control. Sitting before you throw the ball, another way to practice impulse control. So when I'm doing fetch for that one, I would say sit, and when he sits, then I throw it, and he comes back, drops it, pick it up, sit, 1 second, then I throw it. Eventually I work up 2 seconds before I throw it, 3 seconds. I'm marking as soon as he drops it, but I'm gonna start gradually lengthening that time until eventually he comes, sits, and he's waiting, and then you throw it. Now I don't say you just do it, we don't want to take all the fun out of it, but helping him practice some self-restraint and impulse control will really help with a lot of other things as well. So there's also, training is a great way to drain energy. Just make sure your training sessions are 2-3 minutes max, and then always end on a positive. And if you're doing training, you see the kids are about to come up, stop it early. We want to end on our terms, not on his terms, but make sure it's always positive and enjoyable. If you push too long, you get frustrated when the dog stops performing well. The dog will remember you got frustrated, not the exercise, but it'll associate with the exercise and he won't want to do it again. So make sure you always end on a happy, positive note. If he's not listening to you, and you finally get him to listen to you, try not to be frustrated. A lot of people are calling the dog won't come, and they finally come, then we chew them out for coming. Well, when I did what you wanted, I finally got punished, so I'm not going to do it next time. So if he doesn't come, then that would be an indication for me that we probably need to work on his recall training. And we work on it just kind of like a lot of stuff we talked about. We want to practice in the living room in a place where there's not a lot of distractions. So I learn what to do first. Then we gradually start making it more and more difficult as very progressively. So the dog is set up for success and bridges that gap instead of a lot of times we just try to teach him in the actual moment, which is the worst time to learn anything. Okay, so let me see what else. Snuffle mat, Omega Paw, Tricky Trainer, Treat Ball. Tricky Treat Ball is, I think that's called. Sir Bob a lot looks like a Kong. It's got a hole in it, like a Weeble Wobble. They have one that's a UFO that is kind of UFO shape. It's got holes. They got to knock it down and one comes through. So try to get to a couple of different toys and exercises or snuffle mats so you can alternate for each meal. And so after a while, the snuffle mat feeding is like a short walk. Using the Omega Ball is something that he could do when you have people here. Now, I gave him a bully stick from our buddies over at bestbully.com who give them to me to give out, so I give him a little shout out. Get him some bull PPs, get him some collagen sticks. Now, they have bull PPs, and just like humans, bull PPs come in all sorts of shapes and widths. Some of them are thin, some of them are thicker. Sometimes they braid them together. My dog's favorite are kneecaps. We also have tracheas, cheeks, cow's ears, chicken heads, duck's feet. A lot of high-end pet stores will have oxtail and all sorts of a buffet of animal parts. I just take my dog in there to see what they're seem to be interested in, but having a bag of those is healthy or helpful. So if you have some guests come over, you give them a bully stick. And what do we do here? Now he's licking his lips, but for a while he was chewing on the octopus. We're giving him something else to do, and a high-value item is going to attract his attention better than others. Now, I'd also recommend getting a lick mat. A lick mat, make sure you get them. They usually come a couple different options. Make sure it has suction cups on the bottom. So if you put a lick mat with cream cheese or peanut butter or frozen yogurt right here, and you're talking with your guest, he's probably going to lay down right here in his dog bed and lick that. That releases the feel-good endorphins, which is why I use it when I'm dealing with fearful dogs. He's not. But it also keeps him in place, and it drains some energy. I have Kongs in the freezer, and I have people watch my dogs every night when they leave. They give them the dogs Kongs. They lick that, and that's like a short workout as well. So the idea for exercise is to come up with a routine that fits your lifestyle. So we're having a little bit of physical exercise, then an hour to 4 hours later, we have a little mental stimulation. It doesn't have to be flip-flop back and forth, but the idea is to come up with a rhythm that works for your lifestyle. There's 4 people in the house total, is that right? So maybe we divide and conquer. Each person has, this week, you're doing the morning walk and you're doing the feeding and you're doing this and that. And then we rotate it. So that way everybody's kind of doing everything, but we're taking care of the dog's needs. And again, you can set him up for success. He's being better behaved now. We had people in and out because we had tired him out through this session. So remember to use exercise in advance of things. You're going to have people coming over for Christmas. Maybe have a play date and then have a game of fetch and things along those lines. So we're setting him up for success for our life. He's like, I'm getting all this great attention for all the good stuff. All right. I also want the guardians to try to come up some rules and structure. So remember the Premack principle from a scientist named David Premack, which means a less desirable behavior earns me a more desirable behavior. If you have kids, can I go play with my friends? Did you do your chores? No. Do your chores, then you can play with your friends. That's a Premack. It can't be for food. And so after a while, the dog will do the thing that it necessarily isn't a big fan of because that gets me something else. So sit. I only ask once, and then I'm not going to reward him. Now he's getting a little reward from licking me. That's okay. But I might just do some residual training for the sit. But eventually, I tell him to sit, and then I put his harness on. Sit, and then I prepare his food. Sit, and then I open the door. Sit, I mean, he had a kennel here. We freed him from the kennel. But sit, and then I'll let you out of the kennel. So I incorporate sits for a lot of my rules. It doesn't have to be. But incorporating, it can be other things as well. But having things that he has to restrain himself by. The door's open, the fence is open, I'm not running through that. That's a wonderful illustration of impulse control. And I teach dogs to not run through the door, similar to what I was showing you in the video above. Now, I went through a couple other things. I went over how to put the harness on. For harnesses, we prefer to have an X or Y shape here, not a T shape. We don't want a line going across. It kind of messes with their anatomy a little bit. And harnesses are better for dogs than collars. It gives more control to the dog when it has a harness than a collar, but you can damage the trachea, you can damage the thyroid, you can nerve damage the spine. Dogs running and then jolt, that's like a mini car accident. If you're walking your dog and it jolts around a lot, it can damage the neck. So a lot of times, I don't use these for training. When I'm training a dog to walk with a loose leash, I want a straight leash without one. But a lot of people will get a leash that has a little bungee to it. So that way, if your dog's running, when they hit the end of the leash, that bungee acts as a little bit of a braking mechanism. But having a harness is going to be better than that. And what I did is I held the harness up. We put our hand through the harness, and he took the treat. And then gradually we're doing it less and less. And eventually, the dog's putting his nose through it to get this treat. Now, if he starts going around it, go back to the aperture. But eventually, you hold it up. The dog comes and shoves his whole nose through there. Then you clip it up, and then give him a treat afterwards. And that would be a game that I'd recommend you do. Get your new harness, go in a bedroom, close the door, have him come over, do that. And you'll have to do less and less treats. Eventually, hold it. He puts it on, you snap, and then say yes or thanks, give him the treat. And then eventually you hold it up and say, dress up or uniform. He comes over, shoves his nose in it. Remember, the cue always comes before the action. And so eventually then he just comes over and he leashes himself up. Put the leash on, same thing. Most dogs run away and we chase them because we want to take them on a walk. And that becomes a game and the dog does it more and more often. So make the game the way that you want the game. You got to come over to me and then I'll put the leash on, then I'll give you a treat, then we'll go for the walk. If he gets really excited for leash, a lot of times I leash them up without going for a walk. That's called desensitization. So we're trying to teach the dog, just because the leash goes on doesn't mean we're leaving. Most of the time the dog gets so jacked up, and why can't I control myself? Well, because I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. So we instead help him practice being leashed up without going for a walk. We help him practice going to the dog bed without people at the door. We practice walking the door without people at the door. And so it's the same sort of theme. We want to set our dog up for success, not to fail. What are you doing back here? Let's not turn the gas on. You can you can have as much octopi as you want. Just this is not going to be very reinforcing. Go ahead, test it out. Yeah, that doesn't feel very good, does it? A lot of us micromanage our dog. I like to create scenarios where the dog can try to, but we're not saying no. He's trying to chew on it, but chewing metal is not really that much fun unless you have pica, which is a dog that eats inappropriate things. So he didn't get any feedback or reinforcement. Mom is literally struggling, trying to physically constrain herself to say no, not doing this. But letting him figure out on his own that this is not reinforcing and it's not very much fun, he's probably less likely to ever grab this thing again. And so, but again, we made him, a lot of times, no, oh my God, if I get this thing, you will chase me forever, dude. So most of us, remember, we train our dogs to do the things we don't want. So when your dog is offering a behavior that you don't want, ask yourself, how can I create a scenario where the dog gets what it wants without offering the unwanted behavior? There you go, buddy. And then work your way backwards. Sit. We established you don't want this. Like, well, I'll try again. See if there's another spot that I might be able to get that's reinforcing. Yes.
Are you gonna
Or
tell me?
thanks. So he stopped. I said thanks, and I'm petting him. And that can be a way of him saying, I really like what you're doing. And then if he starts chewing it again, I stop petting him. All right, I'm trying to think. Is there anything, whatever, snuffle mat feeding, anything else you want me to go over?
Amazing.
You feel good?
Yeah.
All right. Archie, sit. Now, the person who actually told me that she calls dogs that are crazy crackheads was one of my employees named Kayla, and she had a golden doodle named Archie. This is Archie, and this is Archie's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.